Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, we're so excited to have Navy. I actually went to college with Navy, San Diego State. Go Aztecs. She's the
Woohoo, go
founder of
Aztecs.
Kaipono Solutions, and I'm so excited to kind of talk about everything that you're doing, what you've built, and kind of the trajectory of everything.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, so I'm excited to share it with you.
Maybe I'm so happy to finally meet you. I've heard so much about you and such great things from Nat. So I'm like, finally, this is
Yay.
all happening. Wait, okay. So
Well,
tell us a little bit about you, your journey.
Background, everything,
Yes, all of it.
a lot of
just
things.
give
Okay.
us a rundown of what it is, how you got started, and
Yeah.
who you started it with, and the mission behind it.
Yeah. So I actually started my company back in 2020, but that wasn't the start of my entrepreneurship journey. I actually had joined when I got to San Diego State University. There was something on the campus called the Zip Launchpad, and I knew I really wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be a part of somebody's company. I didn't really see myself starting my own company as a freshman in college. So I applied for the program, and they made you apply with a business idea. So I applied with one. Just to get through the application process and hopefully get placed with the team. And then they ended up being like, "Oh no, like you're applying with your company, so you're starting this company." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great." So that's kind of how I learned the foundations of entrepreneurship. It was an incubator, so it was very much so like problem interview, solution interview, interviewing customers, understanding the market, which I think was really, really important in my earlier stages because I think I've like taken all of that experience and putting it towards Kaipono. But basically, I'd applied with something. It was like a hands-free shower tool, so like for people who are aging independently. And, I was just, like, at Sephora, I was interviewing people about their shower routines, and I was like, "You know what? This doesn't really feel like it's my thing. I don't really think I wanna do this for the rest of my life, talk about to people about how they shower." And so, I pivoted and I went towards something different because I saw these other people, with these, like, app ideas who were, like, moving really quickly and getting a lot of traction, and so I was like, I'm gonna kinda move towards the app space and, create something like Uber Eats on campus. So you could get food delivered directly to your
Cool.
library cubby instead of like, the end of the street or whatever it may be. Turns out that I wasn't passionate about that either. And that I was like not really a tech girl. And so I had a mentor in the program who was like, Navy, you've got it. You just really need to start thinking bigger and stop thinking trendy. Like figure out what it is that you like, something that you're passionate about, and then start your company there. And so I was talking to my dad and I was like, I don't really know what it is that I'm passionate about, like I like animals and love animals and I love like the ocean. I grew up in the ocean and my dad's like, well, actually I have this idea that I came up with about my dad's been in the construction industry for like 33 years. And again, I know nothing about construction. And he's like, I had this idea that I created around 25 years ago before you were born, and I never did anything with it. And it's for stormwater. And I was like, what is stormwater? Like, I didn't really know what it was. And he's like, everything that goes through those little cuts in the curb and gutter line enter into a waterway
Hmm.
unfiltered and untreated. So that could be anything in places like LA where there's, maybe like cigarette butts, needles, dog droppings. Think of like these large metropolitan cities, the things you see on the ground. Those eventually end up in a waterway where you're swimming with your friends and your family. And so I was like, that makes sense. You're always told growing up in Hawaii, don't go swimming 72 hours post rainfall because all the runoff from the mountains and everything. And so I started digging a little bit deeper into the stormwater space and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, urban runoff is the leading source of water quality impairment. So basically,
Oh,
took my
wow.
dad's yeah, it's a number one cause of water pollution. And if you think about it, there's microplastics, there's all of these like actual pollution sources, but nobody talks
Mhm.
about how they actually get to our waterways. And that's usually via a storm drain if you think about it. So, anyways, I ended up taking his idea. I pitched it to my advisor in the program, and she was like, this is great. Like, it's big, it's probably going to be really hard, but like, let's just see what happens. And for the first time in my entrepreneurship journey, I wouldn't say it felt easy, but it started to flow. And I felt like I actually hit a pain point in the industry. And I just didn't feel like everything in the world was pushing against me when I was starting to go after it.
I love it. I remember
Yeah.
you going through Zip because I had gone through Zip, and
Yeah.
we kinda talked about it, and you were like, I wanna be an entrepreneur, and I have it in me," and I was like, "Honestly, you'll find whatever that is, and, like, your
Yeah.
aha moment, it'll come to you." And then I remember kinda seeing everything get started with Kaipono, and I was like, "This is perfect for Navy." One,
Yeah.
because you're always at the beach. Like, you grew up by the water, you have always had such a passion for it that it just
Yeah.
felt so right. And then the more I
Well,
started learning about it, when you came to New York and we caught up and I was like, whoa, this girl's like crushing it. And it's something that is such an impact to not just a specific place like Hawaii or like San Diego, but like this could be something like more global, which is
Right.
phenomenal.
Yeah. And I remember in the earlier stages, I did interview you about my shower tool. When we were in
Yeah.
DG, I came to the sorority house and I interviewed all the girls.
Yeah, I
She was
remember
part of
that.
my
And I was like,
experiment.
yeah, I was
Like,
like,
I
wait, this
love
is
that.
interesting. But then I feel like all these pivots that you've had, obviously
Mhm.
they're all learning experiences and it
Right.
led you to where you are now.
Yeah. And I got really good at customer interviews. And then once I took it towards Kaipono, I was kind of not an expert, but I was really good at it because I had done it so many times. And like it's different when, you're interviewing people randomly off the street. Obviously you guys were nice at DG, but I'm like talking to random people at Sephora, like, hey, like, what do you currently use to wash your back? And they're like, you're a freak. Don't talk to me. And so I
They're
ended up
like, "You're a
when I
stranger. I don't know
yeah, like, who
you."
are you? Don't talk because you can't tell them what you're working on. Like, you're
Yeah.
supposed to just interview people naturally. You're not supposed to be like,
Right.
"Hey, I have a shower tool. This is what I'm doing," because then people respond to you biased. So you're supposed to kind of like talk people into it. It was just so bad. Anyway, when I got to the engineering space, I knew I had actually found a problem because people actually wanted to talk to me and they were excited to tell me about the problems they were dealing with versus, the girls at Sephora who were like, okay, this is strange.
Wait, I love that. Okay, so you started it with your dad. Tell us how that has been, especially as
Yeah.
like there's probably some like lines or boundaries that have need to be set there, I'm imagining. And like
Yeah.
Nat and I have talked a bit about that of working with your family, but curious
Yeah.
on how like you're doing it with your dad.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say my dad is super selfless in the sense of where he was like when we first started this, he was like, "Listen, I'm not here to make money on this. Like, I want you to be successful with it." And he's like, "This is basically my gift to you," which has been really nice. He's like, it'd be nice to have a couple cents here and there, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
in
But
this
like
for
that's so
myself."
sweet.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, about Kaipono in general, I guess I didn't really go over what the actual product is. It's basically, we're basically a Brita for the ocean. So we put a filter in front of the storm drain. If you're walking down the streets, those little cuts in the curb and gutter line, we take out all the contaminants. So think like metals, nutrients, phosphorus, dog droppings. We filter everything out of the system and then discharge clean water back into the waterways. So whether it's a river, lake, stream, ocean, we're discharging clean water back in so that our oceans aren't polluted with whatever's coming off of the land. So that's kind of the overarching of it. But again, I had no engineering experience and I didn't really know who you sell that to. I'm like, I could talk to all the ocean conservation orgs in the world, but really it comes down to engineers. And that's a field that I knew nothing about. I had no connection to. I'm not an engineer. I have no construction background, but luckily my dad does. So he had the initial
Yeah.
concept when he was in the field 35 plus years ago. They were putting all these socks in front of the storm drain, and you guys probably have seen them before. They're just like those big, like black socks. They stick them right in front of a storm drain. And during
Yeah,
the
totally.
construction era, my dad was like, we'd put those out and we'd do all our construction. Everything would be polluted outside of the sock. And then we would pull the sock back and spray everything down the storm drain. Like it didn't do anything. And so
Yeah.
he was like, that's how they came up with their initial concept of Kaipono, where he's like, what if we could actually like capture this and like, do it the right way? But he obviously had a young family, was really young in his career, didn't really have the business resources to start a company. And so he literally just put it down on a piece of paper and never touched it again. But he always had the idea, had the concept. My dad has like a box of inventions. He's like, once we get this thing going, he's like, I've got another one for us. So he's like a
I
mastermind
love
with
it.
I'm
all of that.
obsessed with
But
that.
yeah, super cool. He's like, but he always tells me, he's like, I'm not a business guy. Like I am nuts and bolts. You are the business guy. And I'm like, okay, perfect. It's a great partnership. And I think working with my dad is like super important because I feel like it's somebody who I know always has my best interest. It's like, it's someone who you know is never going to turn on you. And I think that that's like so rewarding in a sense. Like if I could start another company with my dad again, I would do it all over again, just because I know that I have someone who has my best interests, which I think is really important. So we're good. Like we always make a joke now, like I'm the boss of him now, which I always kind of have been. I was that kind of kid.
You're like, that's nothing
But
new. That's always been
yeah,
happening.
people always like, how is it working with your dad? I'm like, I'm his boss now. But he loves it. And like
That's
we
so
we
great.
really
Wait,
just we work
also,
so well together.
I love
Go
that.
ahead.
I'm
Yeah.
curious because my dad's also in construction. My dad's been
Mhm.
in construction for like the last, I don't know, 25 years, if you'll say.
Yeah.
And he's also, you mentioned like your dad's an engineer and knows about engineering. My
He's not
dad's
an
no,
engineer. He's just a construction guy.
okay.
Yeah. He should have been an
Got it, got
engineer.
it, got it.
He knows a lot.
Got it. Because my dad's well, he's electrical and he's gonna listen to this and be like, "Mass, I've told you a
No,
thousand times."
That's not what
Electrical
it is.
and industrial engineer.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
like, I think he got his undergrad in electrical and master's in industrial. I think something like that, something like
Your
that.
dad's an
But anyway,
engineer.
he
We'll leave it
always
at
has
that.
we'll leave it at that. But the point is that he always has like a bunch of inventions that he's like, we should
Yeah.
do this. And can you imagine if you had that? So
Yes.
it's very much of that mindset. That's really cool though, that
Yeah.
he is like giving this as a gift to you.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think it worked out perfect. And I know my boundaries in like the construction sense. Like I know when it's a question for my dad and when it's something he should be handling. And he knows when it's a business question and when it's something I should be handling. And I think that I get a lot of my traits from him. We're very similar and I think in a good way. So we read each other very well. And like I said, if there's something that comes up, I'm like, oh, this is fully on my dad. Or he'll force me to learn stuff. But for the most part, he's been so I feel really, really lucky to have somebody who watches out for me and wants my best interest. Like I said, he's like, I want you to be successful in this. And he's like, this it just makes me feel good to be able to do something for you.
I love it. I would love to like deep dive on how you started with like your prototypes because I remember
Mhm.
talking to you about when you first got started and you're like, well, we have this prototype. How was that process? Where did you turn to be able to be like, this is where I should go to get a prototype? Obviously, like your dad
Yeah.
having the background.
Yeah.
How that for you?
Yeah, that was actually a really interesting part. And this is where I feel really lucky to have a technical co founder because we're in the hardware space and being a hardware founder is not easy. It's not like there's a lot of people who build hardware aren't really necessarily into the startup space. You know, they're usually in construction or they're in engineering, the people who have the resources to build those things out. So that's why, again, I feel like my dad and I are a perfect storm. Because a lot of people who are in the startup space usually like build apps or do things like that. And so we kind of have a different way we've had to go about it in a sense. I think we're one of the first startups in the stormwater space. I don't think that anybody else has really come in from a startup perspective, which is what I've noticed. A lot of these companies have been around for years and years and years and decades. And we're kind of the only ones who have come in fresh, like, hey, we're like shaking up the stormwater industry. And people are like, who are you? You know? So we've kind of found this like not a dormant space, but this kind of quiet niche space, which I think is exciting for a founder because nobody has really innovated heavily there yet. But in terms of prototype, the hardest thing about having a hardware company and having something with infrastructure is that it has to go through the building process and you have to go through like permitting and you have to go through engineers trusting you because an engineer is not going to just put something in. They don't get praised when they do something well. They just get absolutely destroyed when they do something bad. And so they're all terrified to make a mistake and put in something that's going to ruin the infrastructure. This is where I consider myself really lucky as a founder. And again, I wouldn't have been able to do this without my dad. So initially, we had started with just like conceptual drawings, and I had hired on 3 engineers while I was in college, paid them all through equity. Jack, Bailey, and Edward, amazing. They're all still on my team to this day. I had found them all through UCSD, and I was like, "Hey, I'm starting this company. I don't know if you guys like know how to draw things on the computer, but I need somebody to do that." Because again, my dad's a field guy. He does all of his plans, like blueprints, like all by hand, and so he still does this day. He'll draw it out on paper, and then make my engineers take it into like programs.
Love.
Yeah, and so they are like the computer guys behind it. And so I brought on Bailey, Jack, and Edward, and basically we're like, how do we make this happen? They were all college students too. Like they hadn't entered their professional engineering spaces either. So we're all just here trying to figure out what's going on, like how this works. And they basically prototyped everything up on the computer, like through their programs and stuff, which was really cool. And so we then had like digital prototypes that we could show people. And then you go to an engineer and they're like, okay, where is it installed? And we're like, we don't have it installed. And they're like, yeah, we're not putting one of these in. Like there's no way. And so my dad, then we ended up getting like a mini physical prototype, which was like a 3D printed model. And I don't know if you guys know much about 3D printers, but for some reason, I don't know if it got mixed up in our files or their files or what, but we literally like we have our mini prototype, which I still use. But we have this giant block. It's like this big and it's solid of 3D printed material. Like it's not hollow. We have this like giant block. So whenever I go to trade shows, people are like, what is that? Like, what is this huge block that you 3D printed? So we have this like random little 3D printed model that we like bring to trade shows and stuff. And that was kind of again like a showing piece of like, okay, this is what it like looks like in person, but it's mini. I call it my Barbie model. And then my dad was like, all right, we got to get something legit here. People are never gonna like believe us. Like we've got to get something built out. So we decided he's like, I've got a ton of stainless steel, like scrap metal. Like I'm just gonna have he has a full-time job. This isn't his full-time. He's like, I'm gonna have my guys at work just weld something together for me really quick on the weekend or whatever. And so they ended up completely welding together the basins, which is actually insane.
That's
But they built out our first prototype and it works. We still actually have it installed in our pilot space on Maui, is our initial prototype that we built out with stainless steel. But they welded everything together. It probably took a lot longer than it needed to, but it basically got the concept in of like, okay, this is what it is. And then, so they did that again. So lucky to have my dad because otherwise I would have ended up paying. I think it was like I was getting quotes for it. And it was like 10 to 15 grand. And I'm like, I don't have that. Like I can't do that. And so they just ended up rigging it together and they look beautiful and amazing. They still work. And then it was like, okay, now we have the physical product, but now we have nowhere to put it. So we have to figure out how to put these in the ground somewhere. And my dad works on a huge property in Hawaii, and he had asked the property owners like, "Hey, can we just like overtake this storm drain? Like, it's like out of the way, not really in the main right of way of the property or anything." And they're like, "Yeah, sure." So my dad ended up installing the storm drain by himself, put in the device, and the rest was history. Then we just started testing on it and doing all those things. So
wow. That is
yeah,
incredible.
Yeah,
it's
that's
been a long
incredible.
journey. It's been 5 years.
No, I remember when you first got the prototype and I remember you showed me and I was like, wait, this is so fascinating. Cause I was still like trying to understand like and grasp everything that you were doing. And I was like, wow, this is
Mhm,
honestly like a very untapped space, first of all. And then second
mhm.
of all, like the fact that you were able to like, get to even just have a prototype is huge. Cause some people like will get the research and then prototype just like ends up not working out. Or it's like
Yeah.
figuring out the funds to be able to even
Mhm.
launch some sort of prototype. So honestly, I
Yeah.
commend you for that.
Yeah, we've done everything so scrappy. Like I've taken money out of my own savings accounts. I like have a million different jobs and ways that I make money in order to like fund my company, which is something we can talk about in a little bit. But I think the overall it comes down again back to the customer interview thing is like we had initially had our bases made out of stainless steel and we're like, okay, I guess we'll just do this. And the product's going to be probably around 10 to 15K, like these higher price points. And then obviously we did our customer interviews and the number one complaints from engineers about implementing stormwater devices is costs and maintenance and then field stability. Like, okay, well, stainless steel is kind of heavy. So that knocks out like the field stability. Public works aren't going to want to pull it out of the drain. And then cost, stainless steel is expensive. So we can't sell them $15,000 devices to put in the field. So we ended up going the liquid mold injected route, which is significantly cheaper, which brought our product down to $3,000. And
Wow.
then, yeah, so it went from like almost being maybe 15 to 20 down to 3. And then just by changing the material on the bases, they're still just as sturdy. It actually ended up being the better route too. It's a lot easier to manufacture them and they're a lot more sturdy. And then the maintenance part of it, that was obviously something we just kind of built through the actual, like our device being in the curb and gutter and everything. So that's another thing that we built through our customer interviews too.
That's
That's
insane.
incredible. Like,
Yeah.
you guys have come such a long way, and, like, as you said, it's been 5 years, so there's been a lot
Yeah.
that's been happening. Wait, but I wanted to get there was something that you said that I was like, "Oh, I know Nat and I were like, how did you go through the patent process
Oh
knowing that,
yeah.
like, that's a lot and also, like, cost intensive as well?"
Yeah. I think that I had an angel sent from heaven during the patent process. I really do. I don't know. I think I'm the only person on the planet that has ever had this happen to me. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But at SDSU, shout out SDSU. They have such a good entrepreneurship program. Like I will scream it from
They
the
do.
rooftops. Shout out Kathy. She's the best. But this was during I was also in a program called the Lab and Entrepreneurship Program. And
Yeah.
it was basically like students, they didn't have to have business ideas. They were just like kind of dabbling with the idea of being an entrepreneur. So you learned about like term sheets, you learned about customer interviews, you hear from a lot of like existing entrepreneurs and stuff. And with that program, it wasn't like, I think you get a credit for it, but it's not like, it was more of an extracurricular. Like it doesn't go towards any type of like graduation requirements and you had to be accepted to the program, the whole thing. But there was, when you're in the program, you kind of get perks. Again, you get to talk to like really successful entrepreneurs, people who have exited their companies, people who have, you know, communication to venture capitalists or anything like that. And you're a college student. And they had a relationship with a law firm at the time. And I
I
don't know
remember
if
that.
this is actually crazy at the law firm, which I'm not crazy, like thank God, but they were doing like a pro bono thing to write a patent. And I think that, you know, maybe sometimes people get through the process and they're like, oh yeah, there's no way we can patent this or whatever. But we ended up finding something like patentable. We worked with our lawyer, shout out Ryan, he's the best also. And we've been working with Ryan since college. We just finally, I'll actually say it here. We just actually got our patent. It hasn't come in the mail yet, but we just paid for it. It's been granted, everything. So we are
Let's
officially a patented
go.
product. Yes.
Oh my
which
God, I
just
literally
happened.
have two.
Yeah, a couple
That
weeks
is
ago, but it's
so
been like
true.
5 years. Yeah, of just, waiting and going back and forth on claims like, "Okay, you can't claim this because another product has this," but we're like, "We're so different than that product." And they're like, "Doesn't matter, you can't have that." So, I learned so much about the patent process too, and this is so bad to say, but it's like the patents are like Greek. Like, sometimes I would read it, I'm like, "Is this even my product?" Like, "What is this?" Because the wording is so complicated. But again, our patent lawyer was incredible, and yeah, we got that completely free through our program, which was amazing. I'm not sure if they still do it anymore. I don't know if they still have that relationship. Probably because I came in and took 5 years of their time. No, I'm kidding.
I
I
was
don't know.
about to say,
Um,
maybe I was like,
yeah.
I bet you the law firm is like, actually, never mind, we don't offer that
Actually, we're not
anymore.
doing those anymore. No.
They're like, Navy's kept us busy. Like,
Yeah,
what?
like we've
We're
done
done.
enough. Yeah, we're done. And I think a majority of it, like during the program, is probably just to help people explore patents and understand. I'm like, oh
Hmm.
no, we're going full tilt. Like we're applying for this thing. So
Yeah,
we got that all like figured out. And now we're officially patented. But it's so crazy that like that relationship started 5 to 6 years ago.
it's not
Yeah,
easy.
that's
People
how we
don't
went through
talk
the patent
about the
process.
process. People don't
So
talk
I would
about
say
how.
mm-mm. I didn't basically pay. I paid like my patent application fees and that was about it. So I got really, really, really,
Yeah.
really, really lucky. Like I said, I think, and that's from a spiritual perspective. That's what I think, like, I know why I know I'm meant to be doing this is because things have just fallen into place for me with it, which is really important. Like with my other companies, I was like hitting a wall, hitting a wall, hitting a wall. Like everything was going wrong for like the most minute things. And then when I started this, which is a really big task to take on, things just started flowing. And I think that's kind of how you know you're on the right path because I was like, yeah, how am I going to pay for a patent in a field where I like have to have a patent in order for this to be protected? And it just happened. And so not to like put any downfall or any kind of like, not to discount anything that anybody has done as far as like the patent and the work behind it and my dad and my engineers, but things have just really flowed for us, which has been really, really cool.
I think that says
That's
a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. Wait, okay, I want to switch gears a little bit of like talking of, the personal side of being a founder and kind of like how hard it can be. Nat and I a few weeks ago were talking about of like the parts that founders don't talk about, right? Where it's like and you brought it up, Navy, of like, okay, and I'm in the same position where my passion right now is my company, but I can't and like yes, I'm full-time on it, but it doesn't like financially sustain me. So
Mhm,
like there are other things that need to be done, right? So like I do
mhm.
consulting on the side and so does Nat as she's working more with her family office and whatnot. So like you alluded to it. How have you been able to manage that?
People think I'm crazy. Every person I meet is like, "You do this. Oh, and you do this. Oh, and you do this. Oh, wait, you have 2 companies?" I'm like, "Yeah, I literally do." And I will say I am a certified hustler. Like any way I
As it
can get
should
in
be.
and do
Love
it.
it.
Yeah, I just have it in my blood. And I did have a 9 to 5 job for a while and it was great because I would work remote and then I would also work in the
Mhm.
office, but I had a lot of time to work on my company. But it just and it financially sustained me. But I think like mentally it put a block on me. And
Mhm.
it's like only and I was eventually getting fed up. That's a whole other story. But I ended up quitting that job and I was like broke for a hot second and I was like that wasn't a very good
Yeah.
idea. Like I was thinking like, I'm gonna quit this and then the universe comes through and my company pops off and it
And
just
you're a
like makes for the perfect
millionaire.
story. Yeah, and I'm a millionaire because I quit my job, the whole thing. And then I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. That's why people don't do
Yes.
that. And so I've always had my permanent jewelry business. It's actually funny though. Like when I did first quit, I have a side company called I do it's called Studio Sue, and I do permanent jewelry. So I go to pop ups and I like do jewelry on people. Which jewelry is my other passion. Jewelry and the ocean are like my things, and I will always have my jewelry company. I think is far as I get successful, it'll always be my thing. So I have my jewelry company and I was like booking pop-ups like crazy. And I was like, oh, like I'm actually like able to sustain myself with this. And then again, the pieces just kind of started falling together. And I like that would be one of my words of advice for entrepreneurs is like just do it and everything will just it'll fall into place. Like everything just it always does. And so I had quit that. I was broke for a hot second, don't get me wrong, it was, like, kinda rough, but you just do what you gotta do. When you're in those situations where you're forced to grind, you always make it happen? And I've always been like that. I'm the world's number 1 procrastinator. Like, the second I have a fire
Yeah,
lit under my
same.
ass, like, I'm unstoppable. Like, I am
Yeah.
the world's it drives my dad crazy. He's like, "You need to stop procrastinating." He tells me everything I do is at the 11th hour, and I'm like, "Yeah, it is, and that's when I work best." I, like, work really, really well under pressure. If I have a
Yes.
thousand things to do on my to-do list, everything's getting done. If I have one thing to do, it's not getting done. So
Yep.
that's like how I am. So basically, I ended up doing my permanent jewelry company, and then I also teach Pilates on the side as well. That ended up kind of
Really
just falling into
fun.
my lap as well. Yeah, and I love that because I feel like Pilates has really strengthened my ability to public speak. It's made me so confident. Like I literally have to
Oh,
go into a room, tell 14 people what to do at a time and have them listen to me. And it's really, really increased my confidence when I'm pitching and stuff. Cause I'm like, yeah, people will listen to me. So if you're having trouble public speaking, become a Pilates instructor.
I do
It'll
have to
help
say
you.
though,
nice.
I do have to say, like, when I first met you until now, your journey has been amazing. Like the way you speak,
Thank you.
the way that you've like pivoted your pitches, the way that like just in general, I do have to
Yeah.
again commend you for that because I have seen the
Yeah.
trajectory and the growth and the
Yeah.
journey, and it's not easy. But I also think that you've been able to put yourself in situations that you
Mhm.
wouldn't have. You
Right.
have gone through so many different things that I look and I'm like, hell yeah, like
Yeah.
that's
It's one of
she's a
it's
hustler.
one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you have to be so hungry that you have to show up to every event.
Yeah.
Like you have to show up to every conversation. Like when I was in college, this is like and I think that this was a learning lesson for me. I think this was a little sign from the universe that was like, all right, this is what you need to be doing. Like stop turning down meetings or being lazy. And so I had talked to somebody and he's like, "Oh, I want you to talk to this pro bono lawyer." And I'm like, "I'm in the idea phase. Like, I don't need a lawyer right now. Like, why would I talk to a lawyer?" And he's like, "Just talk to him. Like, you need to be networking." I'm like, "This sounds like waste my time, but okay." And I think as an entrepreneur, a rite of passage is wasting a lot of freaking time. And it's just the price you pay. Like you pay that price to get experience, to learn things, but it's like I've wasted so much time, which is okay because it was all learning experience. But like you're having conversations that don't ever follow through. You're networking with people who may not be able to provide you what it is that you need or and I was telling my dad like a while ago, and I'm like, it's so funny. Like I used to be like, oh, these people are so stuck up. Like they don't want to talk to people or this or that. I'm like, now I get it because I've had so many conversations where I'm like I could have been doing something during that time, but whatever. Anyway, so I do the pro bono lawyer conversation. It's just the kind of like, do you want to be a C corp or do you want to be an LLC? Like these little things. And then it turns out that his neighbor was his next door neighbor at the house he lives in his suburban neighborhood, personal life was like the head of the water district. And I was like, "Oh, that's why you do that. That's why you talk to people." Like, him and I like didn't really have much use for each other in the time. He's like, "Well, like good luck on your journey, the whole thing. I'll connect you with my neighbor." And then his neighbor was like the head of the water district. And I was like, "Got it. Like that's why you do that.
It's like,
You'll
this is
never
why you go to
know.
the events. This is why you
This
network
is
with
why you
people.
waste the time,
Exactly. Because you just
Yeah,
don't know who you're going to meet and where it's
you
going to
never know.
get you to the next
Yeah.
location spot that you need to get to.
That was a little ping to me, like, okay, you need to be going to stuff. And it doesn't, and that's part of the journey as an entrepreneur. Like, you don't get to walk in and be the head CEO and start telling people what
Mhm.
to do right away. Like, you really have to go through the trenches. And I think the best CEOs do that. They start from the bottom. They hustle. They put it. I literally have gotten to the point where I'm like, I have $0 in my bank account. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
This is actually that wasn't like a while ago. That was literally like a month ago. And I had a vendor who was like, okay, like we need a $30,000 paycheck in a month. And I was like, okay, what are we gonna okay, cool.
Beautiful.
Like I'm gonna
Hey,
figure out how
that's
to
a
do
lot
this.
more zeros than I thought.
Got it. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay. Anyway, we'll figure it out. And I ended up figuring it out. I like used my resources. I took some family loans. Like you just figure it out, and it's like you hear that on the surface of like you hear that as a story on the outside of like, oh my God, like she owed $30,000 in a month. How was she gonna do? And it's like you just figure it out.
When you
But
have
that's
to, you
again,
have no option.
that's how I work the best. I'm like, I have to get creative. I gotta
Yes.
add like that's just I think it's ingrained in my personality. I'm like, I complain like I don't love it. I'm like, I actually love this shit.
Same. Same. Like Navy, my mom has told me my
It's like
entire life. She's like, you procrastinate everything. Like
mhm.
you always wait to the last minute. It's exactly what your dad tells you is what my mom
Yeah,
tells me. And I'm like, yeah, but does it get done? And did it
it
get done
does.
well? Yeah.
Well,
I'm like,
yes.
so
Yep.
so it's fine.
Like I
Yeah.
execute.
I execute.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's being resourceful and getting it done has just been always been a big part of my, I guess, own journey, which I'm trying to be better about. I actually like now we have a chairman on our team and he's been helping me. He stays on me and I'm like, okay, actually things are really great when you plan ahead and
Mhm.
get things done on time. So I've been working on that. It doesn't have to be a fire drill every week,
Right.
like
Right.
we don't have to do that. So he's been holding me accountable, which has been great. And I'm learning so much from him. So really excited about that.
That's
Wow.
amazing. Your
Yeah.
journey is like fascinating to me. And the way you like, I just to echo what Nat said, the way you speak about it is incredible and
Yeah.
like so inspiring. Like I'm motivated right now. I'm like, hell yeah,
I
let's
gotta go
go.
get some stuff done.
I'm like,
Yeah, I
we
think
gotta go.
I think the main thing that, like, comes from that is, like, you just can't believe that it's ever not gonna work. Like, for
Right.
me, I'm like, if I saw that $30,000, like, bill, I would've been like, "You can't think, well, I'm screwed. There goes the company." I'm like,
Right.
"Okay, it's not gonna not work, so it's gonna have to work out somehow, so I better make it happen."
Yeah, you've also put yourself in different rooms where you've learned so much. Like
Mhm.
you went through what Shark Tank, you tried that journey.
Yeah,
You've gone to conferences, you've
right.
gone to a bunch of different expos where I
Yeah,
mean, I'm just like assuming, but like you're in
yeah,
a very male dominated industry
yeah.
where like you're probably one of the only women in these rooms.
Yeah, and I think that's where my dad comes into play a lot is because, like, he just always with me and my sister, like, the second we would be down on ourselves about something, like, we'd be in
Yeah.
trouble about it. No, like, don't talk like that, like, we're not doing that, you know? So he's always
Oh my
raised us
God.
to be, like, very confident in whatever it is. My sister's a surgeon. She's also in a pretty heavily male-dominated
Right.
field. So
Yeah.
neither of us have ever had that thought of, like, "We're girls, we can't do it," and I think it's because my dad also kinda raised us like boys, like, he raised us riding quads or, like, riding dirt bikes or spearfishing or whatever it was, and, like,
That
we're
you
just
get
kinda like the sons he never had, but I think yeah, a lot of it just comes from, like, we've never been told that we can't do it, and he's like, "Why can't you do it?" And I mean, in my field, I'm not gonna lie, like, a lot of times there are actually a fair amount of, like, female engineers, but, you kind of walk into a room with these construction guys who have been in the field forever, and they're like, "You've never picked up a hammer in your life, and you're telling me I need to
Like,
install
don't
this
worry about
thing?" And, like,
me,
"Yeah, I
but I
haven't,
know
but my
enough.
dad has. Don't worry about me." Like, I know a guy, okay? So, like, let's not address that. I know a guy. But it's funny, my dad now, he's always like, "I'm not even saying this because, you're my daughter and I'm biased and I'm proud of you." And he's like, "But you genuinely, you know the field." And I think that just comes from, again, literally I didn't make my first sale until 5 years in. I didn't generate a single penny from my
Right.
company until 5 years in. And all of that time was, like, research and development, customer interviews, going to lunch and learns, saying stuff wrong and getting corrected. Like, now I know the industry. Like, now I know just as well as that other engineer, I think, just from being in the industry, operating in the industry, talking to engineers. And I just, again, it's one of those things where I never
Yeah.
had a doubt that it
I mean,
wasn't going to work.
Haven't we
Actually, I
all?
have. I've had a lot of doubts that it's not going to work. But I think the most important thing, yeah, and people are always like, if you
Yeah.
don't believe in yourself, like, who's going to believe in you? Which I believe fully you have to believe in yourself. But I also
Mm.
think something people don't talk about is you have to have
yeah.
one more person, one other person who wholeheartedly believes in you. Because there are going to be days where you're like, yeah, like, there's been days where I'm like,
Yep.
I'm bagging this thing. Like, yeah, okay, like, I can't pay any of those bills. Like, I'm so screwed. But and my dad is that one person who always believes me. He's like, no, 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 like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Like, just get through the low. It's going to work. And then it always does. It always ends up working out. But that's my one advice to entrepreneurs is obviously you believe in yourself, but you have to have one other person who believes
100%.
in you too
I
when
love
you
it.
get down on
Oh,
yourself.
I'm
Doesn't have
obsessed
to
with
be
this
everybody,
conversation
just
right
one
now.
person. It could be your mom.
No,
This is
I
so uplifting.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've talked about this on the pod with
Yay.
Vanessa. Being a founder, it's not like it is glamorized so much, and we got to cut that because at the end of the day, like there's so much that people go through. Like you're in the trenches, and it's like
Mhm.
you got to put yourself out, and like community is a big part of it. Like having one other
Yeah.
person to like talk you through those days where you're just like, you know what, screw it, I'm doing this. It's like it's not as easy as people make it seem, and there's so
Yeah.
much that you have to do. Like
Yeah.
you've been able to build a team while also learning a bunch about the industry in itself.
Mhm.
It's not just like, oh, every kind of showed up. They're like, yeah, maybe like now we're here to work. It's like you've had to
Yeah.
build a strategic team to be able to get you to.
Yeah. Sometimes I think I'm very lucky with that too. I'm like, "How did you like?" I'm like,
Everyone
I
just
didn't know
said,
anything." I'm
okay,
like, "Okay,
great.
guys, start doing this." And they're like, "Okay." Like, we all just kinda, like, collectively we're like, "Okay, we're gonna figure it out." Okay, like, yeah, let's figure this out. But it's like, I have no credentials to be telling them how to use a
Right?
engineering software. I'm like, "I think that's how you build it out, right?" Like, so, we learned a lot, and now I feel comfortable. I'm like, "Okay, I know what I'm doing now," but I'm not as, like, clueless as I was when I first started. But I think, again,
It's
that's a
all a
rite of
learning
passage. Like,
lesson.
you have to go through that. You have to earn that
100%. And
and
I think that's the only way you really learn,
go
right?
through
Because even
those
in the corporate world,
awkward,
like I
weird
started my career
phases of
in
your
the
business.
corporate
Yeah.
world. And I remember just like in my internship, I was like, and of course, you know, you're in college, you're a
Mhm.
junior or senior, and you're like, I know the lay of the land, like I got this. And then you go into the corporate world or just into the professional world as a whole, and you're like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
like not even a child, like I'm an infant. Like I'm not even born yet. Like I know nothing. And
Mhm.
then you're like, I know
Yeah.
nothing. You're
Right.
like absorbing
Yeah.
everything. And I think it happened to me
Yeah.
again when I started my company. And I was like, I'm an infant. Again, I know nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just absorbing and talking like
Mhm.
what you said. Like I was talking to as many people as possible.
Right.
And it's just kind of putting your ego aside and
A hun
saying, I know nothing and that's
Mhm.
okay, but I'm gonna learn and then finally be able to,
Totally.
like, to your point, do all the really tough stuff to be able to then feel comfortable enough
Mhm.
and confident enough to, like, speak back or, like, give your opinion
Yeah.
or really pitch to a room full of experts.
If you have an ego in entrepreneurship, it's gone immediately. Like, you can't. You have to be so vulnerable, which I think
Right.
is a pro and a con, but yes. But you have to have enough confidence in yourself to know it'll work. It really does take a special person, I think, that can have enough ego to know, like, this is gonna work, but also not enough ego to be, like, you know, pressed down.
You've talked to so many different investors where you're
Mhm.
like, okay, well, this is something that obviously could be perfect for your portfolio, but then you're like, oh, maybe I should talk to angels. Maybe I
Mhm.
should go this route. Like there's such a trajectory and it's never linear, but at the same time, like you're going through all these things that like even when you had your first sale, you're like, okay, that is in itself is such a major milestone. And now it's like, how can I acquire more
Mhm.
customers? That journey in itself is something that people need to kind of understand more, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's the lesson I'm in right now as the fundraising journey. I've been fundraising for since like August or September of last year. It's almost going to be a year now, which is like, I don't know if that's standard timeline. I don't know how long people usually fundraise for. And it's been the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And it's also been one of the more disheartening things I've had to do as a
Right.
climate founder, because there's a lot of people who wave their pom poms of like, yeah, we love the climate, we love the environment, but then they only invest in AI climate tools. And I'm like, what? Like, like your AI centers don't run without water, by the way. Like, and if that water
Yes.
isn't accessible or it's not clean or it's not whatever, you can't use it. And it's something that I think the industry is something you start to learn as an entrepreneur as well is like you can spot out now I can sniff bullshit
Yeah.
immediately. I'm like, and then that's why I really like you is like you've always delivered on your word. You've always said, I'm going to do this, and you do it. And there's so many people who are like, I know this person I can connect you with, and all these things and these funds, and they just talk. Like they literally just talk. There's so many people in the startup world because the startup world is pretty cool. It's cool to be in the gritty world, and there's founders and there's entrepreneurs and there's VCs and whoever it may be, and it's cool to be in the middle of it. But unless you're, like, delivering on your word,
Thank
it's
you.
like, you're in the way. Like
I
like,
I couldn't
appreciate
start
agree
doing
more.
what you're gonna say you're gonna do, and that's where I've learned a lot in the entrepreneurship space because 'cause I'm like, "Are you real or not? Like,
yeah.
are you with it or not?" And that's what I've always loved about Nat is, like, you've always been with it, you know?
Well, like, thank you so much. And I feel like I'm a big connector because you never really know. And like when I connect people, I try to read the person. Like if it makes sense for them, great. But at the same time, I'm like, actually, maybe that person directly may not be able to help, but they know somebody that could help that person. So I
Mhm,
think that's something that I've also learned throughout just being in the space. And it's also like what you said, sniffing bullshit. Like, and that's something I talked on the panel that I was on last week. It's like, we got to cut the bullshit. Let's just be transparent. And like, if you
mhm,
can connect,
mhm.
great. If you
Exactly.
can't, don't say it. Just like move on with your life, you know?
That's what I've actually really enjoyed about doing
Yeah.
business on the East Coast recently. So obviously we started everything on the West Coast and then we kind of started dabbling into the East Coast. That's where our lead investors are from. And I love people from the East Coast when it comes to business because they're either in it or not. And I'm like, I so appreciate that. Like they don't waste people's time. And like I said, as you start to like go through your founder journey, you're like, I've wasted so much time on these like people who say they're going to do something for me or help me or whatever, want to share stories. But it's like that time is so valuable.
Yeah.
And I really feel like people on the East Coast have a genuine understanding of like, yeah, like when it comes to business, at least, like they are really just with it. And I really have appreciated that about working on the East Coast recently is like, if they're not interested in the slightest, they're not going to give you the time of day, which I really love. Like, I appreciate that.
Don't leave me in this gray area. Right.
Mhm.
And I think it happens and it's once you kind of reach a point in
Yeah.
your career where you're like, okay, well, now I have to focus on other
Mhm.
things. And I think delegating is a big part of it too, to be able to fully understand like where can I
Yeah.
put my time and
Yeah.
like focus on the company actually scales. Because I was talking to somebody at during Tech Week and they're like, what do you guys invest in as a family? I'm like, we invest in the
Yeah.
founder, but a founder that when they start, I can
Yeah.
see the growth. It's not
Mhm.
just like when I invested in
Right.
you 3, 4 years ago, I better hope that your company is not where you were 3, 4 years ago. Like you need, and that's where it comes to fully understanding like where your time is at, what you're doing as a founder,
Mhm.
asking for help. That's a big part of like what a lot of founders kind of put this wall up and they're like, I'm so perfect. We're scaling. And I'm like, really? Like
Mhm.
your
Mhm.
sales and your numbers tell everybody something else, you know?
I think that you bring up a good point because I feel like what I said was contradicting. Like in the beginning stages of your company, as a young founder, as an early founder, like you need to be talking to everybody, anybody, and everybody at all times, because that's how you open up those opportunities and you unlock those conversations. But as you start to find out your journey and you can
No, I
begin to
couldn't
start
agree
to
more.
sniff bullshit, then you know when it's
I think
time
you have
to
to.
start not taking those meetings or where to put your time. But I think in the earlier stages, again, it's a rite of passage. Like you have to go through it. You have to waste the time in the beginning,
Mhm.
unfortunately. I mean, maybe that's a hot take. I don't know.
I think it's so valuable for founders to also get out of their little bubble, their city where they're at. You can actually understand like what else is happening. What are founders doing in other ecosystem? Like, how can it be useful for you? Like, I'm not saying pick up and move across the country just because you haven't been to LA or New
Hmm.
York, but it's like there's
Totally.
ways that you can kind of understand and it'll help the growth of your company in different
Mhm.
capacities, you know?
Ooh, no,
It's
I
this
love
is
it.
actually this may be controversial, but I think like it's funny. Well, I grew up in the San Diego ecosystem, like this is where I started my company. I met these people when I was in college. They were on boards, like watching my company grow. They saw me as like a young
Ugh,
infant, basically in the entrepreneur space, and they saw me take my company to where it's at now. And I,
Right.
for the longest time, was trying to fundraise, trying to fundraise, trying to fundraise. And I haven't had a singular person from my ecosystem invest in my
Yes.
company, but then it kind of takes you back to like, are a lot of these people here just for like, yeah, like we're in the startup space, like we're investors. And it's like, are you like pioneering as an investor? Or are you hopping on your buddy's deal because your buddy is smart and that's what and again, no hate to the San Diego ecosystem. I actually know a lot of these people, amazing, great people,
Yeah.
but it was really an eye opener when I got to the East Coast and they're like, yes, like that's it, and they knew immediately. But it's like, I don't know if it's because I grew up in the ecosystem. They're like, oh, they still maybe see me as a college student, even though I built this company and I have generated revenue. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if it's a psychological thing. But yeah, I haven't had one person from my ecosystem invest in my company, which I thought was
Mhm.
really interesting because
yeah.
that's why
I
you go
think
through these things as a young person is to meet
I
the
know, I think it's
ecosystem, to
great.
meet the
I
people
also
who,
think that
they're scouting people from a young age. And it was really cool to go to the East Coast and be like, oh, okay, like I matter to this group of people who I've never met before. So I don't know,
see
maybe that's a hot take,
yeah.
maybe that's controversial, but
It's not fun for founders that are trying to scale and
mhm,
trying to get to places because then it's like, oh, well, I've been kind of hitting a wall with these people because
right.
like they're investors, they're doing this and that. And it's like, and I think that's where it kind of goes back to what we were saying. Like, if it's not somebody in your ecosystem that could help, you know? And I'm not going to say like, if I connect you to an investor, like you're for sure going to get a check guaranteed, but like it lead to a deeper conversation with somebody else.
Right. Yeah, no one can guarantee it. Yeah. It just to me it was a realization I had while I was fundraising
Mm.
and I would consistently go back to the San Diego space be like, "Hey," and even my East Coast people were like, "Hey, like do like is there anyone from San Diego like you were?" And
Yeah.
I'm like, "No." Like and I get it like San Diego is a very big like biotech field. Like they do a lot of biotech here, but it was just it was a big eye opener for me. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I definitely have to start expanding my branches elsewhere. Like, I need to be going to the East Coast. I need to be going to
Yep.
Florida or Northern California or, finding where these people are, pioneering the climate space or just finding. I think that's another big thing that I've realized as I've gotten into the space too. And it kind of aligns with like, you start to find pioneers. Like, you find people who aren't afraid. Like, you find those people who are entrepreneurial at their core and
Yeah.
are willing
Yeah.
to take a risk because they see it, you
I
know?
could not. Yeah, no, maybe I couldn't agree more. I think, and Nat and I have talked about this, right? Like, if you're thinking 2018, 2019 pre-seed was huge. Like, you could raise. I have a friend who raised $2 million off an Excel sheet, and I'm like, "Are you kidding?"
Like
And it's
like,
like,
now it's a problem, you
now,
know?
now you don't hear of that. It's like pre-seed doesn't really exist. It's like, okay, cool, that's an idea, but where's the traction? Where's all of this? Which, like, I can
Hmm.
argue both sides where I'm like, well, okay, you need to
Right.
see if there's
Yeah.
traction, if this is a viable business before investing. But also the point
Yeah.
of the pre-seed is the idea because they need money in order to move forward with it. And
Right.
so, but I agree with you. I think there's a lot of BS out there and
Totally.
a lot of people that like to pose as investors and be like, I'm so cool. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, well, when did you deploy capital last? And they're like, oh,
Hmm.
I don't know.
When did you pioneer a deal that you never thought was like when did you pioneer something from this founder who had nothing? And when did, you know what I mean? Like when did you take a risk? As founders, it's your job to perform on that as well. And maybe this is why I get like kind of worked up is because I know in my heart and soul, I'm like, listen,
Yeah.
you can't fail if you don't quit. And I'm like that. I know in my heart and soul that like my company's gonna make it either way. I just need the money. I'm like,
Yeah.
I just need the money. It's not like one of those things where I'm like, oh, maybe I get the money and this and that. I'm like, I need the money and it'll go. And
Right.
it's disheartening to see like these apps or these AI just because they're trendy get
It's
like,
great.
raise again like $2 to $3 million in a pre-seed or seed round. And I'm here like with infrastructure, a recession-proof industry. I'm here with a recession-proof industry with hardware like fighting for my life. And it's so interesting. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, shit, do I just, do we just bootstrap this whole thing? And like, no, like we can't like stand down to that. There are the right people, there are aligned people. We have an incredible lead investment crew on our team, which I feel really, really lucky to have. They've gone like above and beyond to help us out and get everything together. But
I think stepping out of your initial ecosystem that and you've seen that with your own eyes. Like
mhm,
you were in
right,
Boston like not that long ago and you were crushing, right? And then like New York, there's like it's a melting pot of opportunities. Like
right,
I think going to Florida where I mean beaches down there like actually need
yeah,
something like what you're building.
Totally.
yeah,
You said it like really tapping
yeah,
into those areas where not only have you seen, but also kind of changing your framework and like people within the industry, like I just have to pivot in terms of
totally.
how I need.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to again the initial conversation we had about pivoting, whether it's your product, whether it's the people you're talking to. And then when it even comes down to you as a founder and how you're building yourself up as a founder, you're basically a product. It's like, do we pivot our company towards, investors who are it's actually funny. I talked to an environmental company, these girls, they were doing water treatment and they had raised, I think they were raising a $4 million round. And I'm like, how did you guys do that? We're in the same industry. Like, I'm having a lot of trouble. And they're like, we got out of the climate space, actually. We got out of the climate space. We went to general investors who like cared about infrastructure and cared about, water filtration. She's like, but we stopped talking to the climate people. And she's like, the second we stepped out of that, that's when we raised our money. And I was like, oh,
I love
Yeah.
it.
interesting. Okay.
And
Like,
yeah, and also like it makes a lot of sense. Just really quick, I pivoted my company from like being in the beauty space to being in health and wellness. And the moment we pivoted, it was like all these doors opened up. People were like, "Oh, I see the vision." When
yeah,
we were under the beauty umbrella, it was like, this is not really what we have in mind. Like we want physical product. Yeah, but our costs are 10 times lower. Like, why would you not want to invest in
yeah.
us? Like it's similar to you versus when we then stepped out and
Hmm.
said, okay, if we make this pivot and really intentional, then it actually opens a lot of doors for us. But I love to hear that. Wait, maybe. I know we've been talking for a while and we're like
Right.
way over time. But so thank you
Yeah.
for the time. But the one question that we always
Hmm.
ask everyone, because the pod is called No Hard Lines, obviously
Right.
it's hard to
Yeah.
draw that
It's,
line
yeah, that's
between
important.
work and personal. Where do you have the hardest time in your life drawing that line, if you even do? Because it seems like there's a lot of overlap and
I
meshing there.
I think this is a good question. And I feel like if you have to draw a really hard line between the work you're doing and who you are as a human being, maybe there's not a great alignment in what you're doing. I don't know. I wake up every single day super excited to work. Like I'm excited to work, like I love talking to
The
customers about
best.
like I don't know, like I there are no hard lines in my life and I've almost kind of branded myself, like okay, I'm an ocean enthusiast. This is a really big part of my life. I love the ocean and I get to work towards protecting the ocean every day. Two, love jewelry. I'm decked out at all times of the day and I'm excited to go to that. You know what I mean? Like, and my dad has always told me forever and ever, because I was like, I think at one point there were like a couple different fields I was looking at for college. And he's like, I'm sorry, Navy, but you're an entrepreneur. And I'm like, what? I want to do this. I want to have a 9 to 5. And he's like, you're not going to make it. Like, you're not. And I was like, okay. But he's always said, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think that's so, so
Right.
true. And like I said, like sometimes I feel a little guilty, like being an entrepreneur and making my own money and like but from myself and what I'm doing, and maybe not working on a Tuesday afternoon. Like there's some Tuesdays where I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't really have much to do today, but there's a Saturday where I'm super busy. You're so ingrained to think like, okay, 9 to 5 from Monday through Friday is how I should be working. And like if it's a Tuesday and I'm like getting a coffee and doing a workout class and going to the beach, I feel so guilty, but it's like that's something I'm trying to step out of is like, no, you've earned this. Like you've built this. Like you've made your life to where you can do this. And I think it's still kind of ingrained to me like, okay, we need to go to work from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But like I'm working 12-hour days on Saturday, Sunday with my jewelry business. So it's like try that I would say like not feeling guilty about my scheduling is where I have that line where I'm like, I need to be a little bit more fluid with it. But other than that, I feel like I just wake up every day and I'm like just stoked. And sometimes again, I feel guilty because I'm like, I don't know if this is like, is this real
Yeah.
work?
Yeah.
But I'm making money. So I mean, I'm stoked. Yeah. But it is definitely, I would say it's confusing. And I grapple with that a lot is like, how do I
Yes.
make myself feel like the work I'm doing is enough, even though I know it is, like on an outside perspective, but like on a Tuesday, if I'm taking that workout class, how do I make myself feel like, yeah, this is your life? It's kind of hard to believe sometimes, but I love it.
Where can people find you?
So my business is Kaipono Solutions, Kaipono Solutions. That's same on Instagram and LinkedIn. And then my personal is just Nady McKee. And I post a lot there about like, just like I said, I've become my own, this is who I am, and I feel like I'm living as who I am. Yeah. And so a lot of my content on my pages is about, building my businesses and doing what I do. So yeah. It's so funny you meet people in college and you never think that they're gonna be like a big part of your journey, or you don't really realize it. And it's like I met
Yeah.
Nat and you were older than
Yeah.
me by a couple of years and I didn't know that Nat was gonna be a big part of my journey. And same thing with randomly, there's this guy that's in the stormwater industry and he was friends with my ex-boyfriend
Always
from
have.
college and we somehow both ended up in the stormwater industry together. And I'm like, wait, this is so weird. Like I didn't know that like in college we were going to parties together, but like now we're in this industry together and it's pretty cool.
I
To
know, this is
support.
awesome. Likewise, baby. You need to come to New York. Yeah.
I know.
I mean, you're already telling
I
us how
love
much
it.
you love the
I'm
East
so excited.
Coast and the investors. You're gonna love the founders.
Yeah.
I just moved to New York. I should just move to New York. Yeah, I'll just move there.
I already
Perfect.
showed you
Okay.
places where you could
Coming.
have a pop-up. There, I have multiple ideas in my head for New York
Perfect,
pop-ups for your
perfect.
jewelry. Like I sent her pictures the other day. I was like, "Baby."
I should have a New York summer. Yes. This is it. Okay, we'll work on it.
Thank
Yay.
you.
Thanks, guys.